So Blizzard responded to the Overwatch 2 becoming the worst reviewed game on Steam. They actually responded to it. Okay, here we go.
As many of you may know by now, Overwatch 2 is currently in a rather embarrassing position on Steam.
Yeah.
It is currently the worst user-reviewed game on Steam ever.
Until they release Overwatch 3. And I feel like whenever Overwatch 3 gets released, people will rate it down out of like a duty, like a responsibility, like it's another one, guys, you know the drill. Not
in
even
the platform's history,
ironic, yeah.
Looking at the review score now, it is sitting at overwhelmingly negative from over 152,000 reviews. Among those reviews, only 9% have rated this game positively. The rest have given it a thumbs down.
Yeah.
And you can see right here, there's a website that keeps track of the worst user-rated games on Steam ever, labeled the Hall of Shame. And Overwatch is taking the crown here with a 9%, with second place belonging to War of the Three Kingdoms at 12%. So this is a significant margin, and the fact that this is coming from over 152,000 reviews makes this a very definitive, overwhelmingly negative review score. And things aren't faring much better on Metacritic, where the user score is sitting at 1.4 from 3,756 ratings on PC at least. And with the mass down...
Well, yeah, I mean, what the fuck? Like, they just... Like, imagine if they released a WoW expansion, but they said, guys, hey, listen, we can't program this whole new continent, all right? We're just gonna give you some more levels, and y'all figure out how to get into there, and, yeah, there's no new raid either. Sorry, yeah, it was, look, I mean, making a raid is hard. And after a year or so, we decided the best option is to just not do it. But there's a new type of arena. It's a six-player free-for-all. Whoever is last alive wins the game. So yeah, have fun, guys.
Downvoting of the game on Steam in particular, it's something that caught the attention of Blizzard as they recently directly responded to this occurrence, as reported here by news outlet Kotaku. Blizzard's response was published on the official Overwatch website via the following blog post published on August 18th, 2023 by Aaron Keller, who's the director of Overwatch 2. He talks about the release of Overwatch 2 Invasion, which includes new heroes, a new mode, as well as the story missions that was supposed to be a part of a larger PvE experience that would have comprised of the story missions and the hero missions. But the hero missions, which a lot of people were looking forward to, has been scrapped. That was the mode where you were supposed to be able to customize your heroes through skill trees that you'd be able to customize to straight up change how your heroes play. And
yeah, all of this stuff is not going to happen.
Then take him out on a wide variety of missions. Yeah. All of that stuff turned out to be a lot more
it turned out to be a lie. So it was going to happen, but it didn't.
Ambitious than Blizzard could realize, so they decided to scrap it altogether, to the disappointment of many, as that was what a lot of people were looking forward to and what was supposed to justify the 2 in Overwatch 2. But now Overwatch 2 feels like a glorified update to Overwatch 1. But you can see right here, the director talks about the new hero Illari. He talks about the Flashpoint mode, the story missions, but he also addresses how we also launched on Steam.
So they're actually going to address it directly. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Oh, good. Here we go.
Week, likely in an effort to boost Overwatch 2 players, to just bring in new audiences by releasing it on the more popular platform. They usually release games on just the Battle.net platform. That's just...
I think that they probably did this as some form of an outcome from the lawsuit with Sony. That's like my opinion, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
How Activision Blizzard has done things. But Overwatch 2's popularity has waned, so I feel like this is in part a strategy to try to draw more people into the game. So they launched on Steam last week, and although being review bombed directly acknowledged here, isn't a fun experience. It's been great to see lots of new players jump into Overwatch 2 for the first time. So it seemed as though the strategy did work. Apparently, they are seeing an influx of players.
Well, of course. I feel like a lot of people would probably want to try out Overwatch. Sure, why not? It's a free game.
Because there's just new content, a new mode, a new hero.
It's not like, I mean, Overwatch it's not the worst game ever. It's just that, like, I think that the reason why people are unhappy about Overwatch 2 is that for everybody that bought Overwatch 1, and, like, this is what I've said before, right? Is that if you owned Overwatch 1, Overwatch 2 is a downgrade in quality in terms of, like, being able to get skins and a reward structure for the game. Now, is it healthier for the game long term? I don't know. I think so. And, you know, we had this big, long argument about it, so I'm not going to get into that again. But the point is that, like, a lot of the fans of Overwatch 2 were fans of Overwatch 1. And if they were fans of Overwatch 1, well, then they probably owned it. So what a big surprise. You dramatically changed the monetization structure in a way that the majority of your audience that already paid the money for it is considering a downgrade. And it's like the majority, like most people don't care about a game being ethical. They don't care. Oh, it's a loot box. They don't care if it has loot boxes or not. Like, I understand, like, my perspective is a niche perspective. For sure, I get it. And that's the truth, is that people just want to play a fun game, and that's it. So whenever I see this, and I see all these people getting mad about it, it makes perfect sense. And then also, whenever the game didn't even come out. Like, they effectively said Overwatch 2, the reason why we're calling it 2 isn't going to happen. So yeah, it makes complete fucking sense why people are pissed off about this game.
Missions, and also because the game is just more accessible now. Our goal with Overwatch 2 has been to make the game more accessible than ever, there we go, for more people than ever before. Many of the reviews on Steam mention the cancellation of the much larger component of PvE, the hero missions, that was announced in 2019 as one of their primary reasons for dissatisfaction with the game. I love how they don't even mention hero missions anymore. They just say, there's that one thing people keep talking about that shall not be named. It's the hero missions. I don't know why omit the name altogether. I get that, he says, that people are dissatisfied with the cancellation of that mode. That announcement was about an ambitious project that we ultimately couldn't deliver. But the thing...
I don't see why. Why are they not able to do this? I think, actually, you know what it could be? There could have been, like, a problem with, like, whenever you would queue up into an Overwatch PvE, I don't know, lobby, that you had to load everybody else's skin on their Battle.net account. And so it was causing the game to be really laggy. So because the game was so laggy and they didn't know what to do, they had to shut the game down. Because they couldn't figure out, like, how can we get people to be able to play the game without it lagging out? That has to be it. Yeah, it's got to be it.
Yes, this wasn't just...
And no, I don't mean for every... I mean for every character in every other Blizzard game. So, like, Heroes of the Storm, you know, World of Warcraft mounts. Yeah, it loads all of those. Just in case.
Something that was announced, it was like a flagship element of Overwatch 2 that was marketed over and over again and hyped up continuously.
What's the reason why
before it was announced after the game's launch that this PvE mode would be scrapped after people bought the game, and after they knew for months that this mode would be scrapped, but decided to not disclose that because they knew it might potentially impact the optics surrounding Overwatch 2 and could potentially impact the sales of Overwatch 2 during its launch period. So in that sense...
Yeah, I think that if they had announced that, like, I do think it's, like, really... I actually think that the only scummy thing that happened here is they didn't announce it earlier. The reason why is because, like, a lot of people bought skins for Overwatch 2 because they were excited about the PvE. So it's like, for example, like, imagine buying tickets to, like, a concert festival, and then, you know, like, 3 of the headlining artists that you were buying tickets there to see just decided to, you know, they canceled those tours. And so then they're not going to be there anymore. Well, I think a lot of people would feel really fucking scammed. They would feel like they got cheated because they paid to play, they wanted to see those people, and now they're not going to be able to see them. And like the truth is that people bought the skins for their favorite characters, these expensive mythic skins. They bought them because they wanted to have them for whenever the PvE content came out, because that was like their favorite character. And I think that a lot of people probably would not have bought those skins. And maybe not a lot of people, but I think that the total sales of skins would be lower if they didn't announce PvE ever. I think that the promise of PvE is what caused people to want to buy more skins. And so then canceling it really... And like, again, it's not like Blizzard should get like put in jail for this. Like, I mean, plans change, right? I get it. But at the same time, like after you have a fuck up like that, how can people ever trust what you're going to do again?
And it feels like a bit of a deception where they knew this was going to happen, and yet they decided to kind of drag people by the nose for a little bit before they're like, oh, by the way, surprise. And I have little doubt that this was a decision on the leadership side of things. I don't know how high up the ladder this decision goes, but somebody in the higher up elements of Activision Blizzard decided, let's not talk about this until it's the right time, until after people have bought the game. And let's not...
Of course, you don't buy Overwatch 2. It's a free game. But what Young is saying is fundamentally true, that after people buy skins, after people invest into battle passes, after people start playing the game. So yeah, I mean, you didn't buy the game, but you're still buying into the game.
Spoil the optics surrounding Overwatch 2 more than they already were. I mean, the optics already not great when Overwatch 2 first launched, and when Overwatch 2 was announced and it was shown that it doesn't look like a huge step forward from Overwatch 1, but again, the hero missions, at the very least, people are like, okay, that's new and that seems substantial. So that
it looked really cool.
If they nail that, then maybe I'll be like, okay, this is Overwatch 2. It feels like a full-fledged PvE experience, but that's no longer the case. And so that puts Activision Blizzard and Overwatch, the IP, in an awkward position. He continues, if we can't turn back the clock, then what can we do? We can keep adding to and improving Overwatch 2. That is how we move forward. This means more maps, heroes, game modes, missions.
No, nobody gives a fuck. That's what I think. I don't think anybody gives a fuck. Like, people that were playing Overwatch 1 are probably still going to play Overwatch 2 because they like the core gameplay. Sure, definitely. Good for them. But I don't think that anybody else is going to care. Like, you can't just cancel something this big and be like, okay, well, what can we do instead? No. Like, what they did, like, they did something to a game that is almost impossible to do for a game. Is they killed people's hope. And I know this is kind of like a fucking, like maybe a little bit... It's saying a lot, right? But they killed the hope of this game ever being more than what it is. And that hope is what strung people along for so long.
Stories, events.
And that's impressive. Like, few games managed to actually kill the player base's hope for the game to ever be more than what it is now. But Overwatch succeeded. I have 4.5k hours in Overwatch, but as you said, I don't care about anything PvE, maps, or heroes. To be honest, I just want to play it to kill time. Awesome, dude. That's great. And, like, I hope you're having fun. Like, there's nothing wrong with liking Overwatch and playing it. I think Overwatch it plays relatively well. Like, there are a few things I don't like, but overall, I think it plays very well. It's a smooth game. It's well designed in a lot of capacities, and yeah, I don't have anything negative to say about it in that way. However, I was expecting for it to be more than just like a 5v5 hero shooter. Diablo 1, Diablo is one bad season away from being in the same spot. No, Diablo is like 5 bad seasons away from being in the same spot. And in my opinion, I think Diablo can release 20 bad seasons and people will still buy Diablo 5 because the core experience of Diablo 4 was not awful for enough people. It's like, for example, if Diablo 4 had canceled Nightmare Dungeons and they canceled the open world and they canceled the campaign, that's what Overwatch 2 canceling PvE was really like. Now, people would still play Diablo 4 even if they did all those things because they just like Diablo, but there's a lot less of them.
cosmetics and features, an ever-expanding, evolving, and improving game. This is the future of Overwatch. I think you forgot to mention the monetization elements that permeate the game and that in many ways corrupt the progression loop of the game, and that sense of feeling like the game rewards you for the time that you invest in the game rather than just the money that you invest in it. There's just so much more stuff that feels like you have to pay for, and the fact that heroes aren't unlocked automatically for you unless you grind through the free battle pass or you pay $10 for the premium battle pass that will unlock.
And again, like, I have to say, like, as somebody who, like, I still think that Overwatch 2 is better monetization ethically, but, like, a lot of the people that play Overwatch 2, how many of you guys that play Overwatch 2 owned Overwatch 1? So for every single one of you, it was a downgrade. Like, it might be better for the long-term health of the game in, like, the next 10 years, but immediately it is a downgrade. Because you used to be able to work towards the skins, now you can't.
Those heroes automatically, combined with a lot of the coolest cosmetics, straight up just being paywalled, being impossible to earn, and just being a worse monetization system than freaking loot boxes from Overwatch 1, which is already controversial because it was essentially gambling. Like, it, you know, that's the stuff that doesn't get mentioned here that really does affect every part of the long-term experience of this live service. And, you know, I hope that they manage to pull it back somehow and that future content releases will really feel substantial enough where it'll rekindle my...
I don't think that they're going to be able to recover this in 2 years. Like, I don't think that in 2 years they're going to be able to recover any degree of credibility. Maybe 5. Like, I think that they, like, as I said, I think that, like, again, that announcement killed hope. It killed the IP. Move this a bit.
Passion for Overwatch, but for my part, as someone who played Overwatch 1 heavily throughout the lifespan of that game, it was like my go-to competitive shooter for a long time.
I think that there are more fans now of Overwatch porn than Overwatch.
You know, at this stage, I just have no interest in the future of Overwatch. I'm so deflated by everything happening to this game, and I'm so not feeling hopeful about how all this will play out, and I'm so tired of the way the game keeps goading me into trying to spend more and more, and I'm just kind of tired of all of it. And
I never felt that way, like getting goaded into spending more money, but like I think it's like all beside the point, right? Like, I spent a lot of time defending Overwatch 2, but don't get it twisted. Like, I don't know whenever I'm going to go back play Overwatch 2 again. I don't know if I ever will.
Moved on to greener pastures. But if they can bring it back somehow, you know, if they can really improve the experience, great. But I'm still waiting for that to happen. And the addition of story missions that are, you know, well made, especially where the cutscenes and the dialogue between characters is concerned, but ultimately isn't that big a deal, and they're fairly short.
It doesn't matter.
They're charging $15 for these story missions.
The problem is that, like, the missions aren't long enough in order for people to justify spending the money in order to access them. Especially whenever it's like $15. I bet you can probably buy The Witcher 3 for $15 nowadays. You can probably buy, what else for $15? Probably Dark Souls 1 for $15. There's a lot of Valheim, Skyrim, Risk of Rain, Game Pass. Yeah, it's just the value proposition just isn't there. Except for people that are like super fans of the game.
Scrapping the hero missions PvE, all of that makes it something that I don't feel like I have to tune into. It makes me feel like I can skip the story missions and just not be invested in all of this, especially when the story missions are not a complete package, but rather the first chapter of many. It's not a full-fledged campaign.
It's still not a complete package.
It is just the first episode, essentially. And they're going to charge $15, or I don't know if exactly $15, but they are going to charge money every time they release new story content. This has been confirmed. As reported by Kotaku here in their impressions piece of Overwatch 2 Invasion, every new set of story missions will need to be purchased in order to access them.
Have they said that you can go back and do the old ones if you buy the battle pass to do the new one? So like if there have been 3 story missions that have happened and you buy the battle pass, can you do all 3 of them? What did you expect? Well, I expect that you wouldn't be able to. You know, in Honkai Star Rail, a gacha pay-to-win trash game with anime waifus, even they let you replay the events. Oh, God.
Which is complete bullshit.
Jesus.
This is starting to feel like it'll become more and more like Destiny 2, where it's
I bet they want it to be.
Necessarily free to play, but rather free
$400?
to access. And if you really want the full breadth and depth of content, you do have to shell out money. Free to play players are not going to get the complete experience. And it'd be one thing if the story missions were really substantial and really rich in content, but we're talking about 3 story missions that are $15 in price. And the only thing that might make this bundle worth it, this Overwatch 2 Archives bundle that gives you permanent access to the Invasion story mission,
makes it
is
worth it.
if you were planning to get the Battle Pass to begin with, because this does give you 1,000 Overwatch coins, which can buy you the premium Battle Pass. So if that was your plan, this bundle technically costs you $5. But given the bad will that's been generated by Overwatch 2, and given that
It's just so lame, bro. Like, this is so lame. I just... Like, it's like, it's just fucking... I don't even want to say it. I just want to sit here and just fucking, like, take it in. Even mind the story they said is free, and the story missions have tag as free missions, and they're $15 each. Well, whenever they said free, well, they are free. You just have to pay $15 first. But after you pay the $15, then they're free. I just... It's just like, it's just sad, man. At this point, I strongly suspect active sabotage. You know what? That would make me feel so much more safe and secure and good. Because at least if there was an active sabotage, that would mean that somebody out there has a plan. You know? It would mean that somebody out there has at least an idea of what's going to happen. Somebody is competent.
The goal is to draw in more players. Them locking the story missions, which is a substantial piece of content for this free-to-play game, behind a paywall, just seems like a really tone-deaf idea. Impressions surrounding the story missions themselves range from, actually, it's pretty good, to, meh, they're fine.
I bet they're great. But that's $15. $15 is a lot of money.
Nobody says it's like earth-shattering. Nobody's saying like this is going to be what brings you back to Overwatch 2. But generally there's a sentiment of, okay, like these missions do feel like challenging and fun, and the cutscenes are cool, and the story developments are nice and all that. But ultimately, when it comes to the question of is it worth your money, here's a piece by Kotaku where they're like, I don't know. I don't think so, really. Scrolling further down, the Kotaku article elaborates further. Is the $15 extra cost worth it? Well, heroes are locked behind the
Nobody can make a value assessment like that for anybody else. Like, for somebody who's a huge fan of Overwatch, of course it's worth it. For somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, it's probably not worth it. For somebody that has money to burn, then it is probably worth it. But it depends on what $15 means to you.
Battle Pass. You have to grind for them through the free Battle Pass or fork over $10 for the premium one, which grants you immediate access to the newest character. Legendary skins, which used to be found in loot boxes you could either earn or pay for, are difficult to get now without forking over money. Best skins, often shown in the trailers for new seasons, are only available for purchase in the in-game store, and every new set of story missions will need to be purchased in order to access them. The game already feels way too monetized as it is, and the fact that they're just adding an extra layer through substantial content that's not just cosmetics, but rather a substantial aspect of the game, the story missions, the fact that they're paywalling that, like that is gameplay affecting stuff right there. You know what I mean? It's experience affecting stuff, and they're going to do it.
Yeah, it's like you're paywalling actual gameplay content. Like this small little sliver of content that still makes it to where they still have some PvE in Overwatch 2. That tiny little piece, yeah, you've got to pay money for that.
Every time they release new story content. If they would have shipped a full-fledged campaign experience with the story missions, and alongside that, the PvE hero missions, then it would have felt like a complete enough package where they could have gotten away with charging extra for that substantial piece of PvE content. But this is a shadow of what was originally promised, and $15 for that? Like, come on. And for them to do that every time, however much they're going to charge for these story missions with new releases, I imagine it's going to be $15 every time, but I don't know for sure. Like, come on. And yeah, these story missions, they aren't that long. They're like 20 to 30 minutes each is what the general...
Bro, you probably get your dick sucked for less than that. Like 20 or 30 minutes? Like, I'm sure that there are hookers that are probably less than $30 an hour. Like, I don't know, but like, I bet there probably are. That's nuts, man.
Consensus has been so an hour and a half experience tops.
California,
and yeah, there are multiple
not.
difficulties, and you can challenge yourself by tackling them in the hardest difficulty, and that, you know, you can potentially get more hours out of it. But the base experience of, you know, getting through the missions as if it were a campaign experience, you're really only talking about an hour and a half worth of gameplay.
Jesus.
And even when it comes to replayability, some would argue that the replayability is questionable. As for what other outlets have been saying about the Overwatch 2 story missions, well, here's Digital Trends, who said that the missions did live up to the players' expectations, even if it still feels like we're only getting a part of a greater whole. It does not...
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're going to make you a cake. Never mind, you're just going to get the icing off of one piece of the cake. And it's only one side of the icing. There you go. So it's kind of like the whole cake, right? I mean, hey.
Feel like a complete arc or a complete story or a complete campaign. It feels like only the first act of a larger story. Digital Trends straight up says here that the most disappointing aspect of Overwatch 2 story missions is that the story itself isn't complete at release, which is what like Anthem suffered from. Here's an impressions piece from .esports. They say that both fans of Overwatch lore and FPS players addicted to a challenge will find a lot to enjoy with Invasion's missions. Again, the content itself is not bad, it's just not substantial enough to justify the price point. Not to mention that .esports brings up the point of if these missions had released when Overwatch was at the apex of its popularity and positive sentiments, it would have gone down better.
Yeah,
I just can't help but wonder if the excitement for these PvE missions would have been way more palpable several years ago.
Well, people would have been super hyped for them, man. Like, for example, if they had released these leading up to Overwatch 2 as like, hey, this is a taste of what to expect. They actually did this with Warcraft 3 leading up to WoW. There was like a special, do you guys remember this in Warcraft 3? The Rexar campaign that you could do, and it was like, hey, this is going to be kind of like what you're going to get in World of Warcraft. Dude, that was so fun. Like, if they had done that leading up to Overwatch 2 and like at the beginning of Overwatch 2, dude, people would have been so hyped. Everybody would have done them.
It just feels like these missions would have been better served years ago while the game was at the peak of its popularity. Other outlets like PC Game Zen have pointed out that, once again, The story missions are charming and they're not bad at all. They can be fun for how long they last, but the weight of expectations hangs heavy. This editor...
Well, it's like you can never see the PvE missions anymore without looking at them through the lens of what you aren't getting, because like it's like anchoring, right? So like whenever you do sales, right, you want to anchor a high price so like you can lower it, and then the customer's mind, they're getting a good deal. Well, Blizzard set the anchor on the fucking moon, and then they're like, well, hey, we're gonna give you a 2-story building, isn't this great? Well, no, bitch, I want it to be on the moon.
Experiences at the missions themselves are a whole lot of fun, but there is the shadow that looms in regards to the hero missions that aren't made up for by the story missions, because nothing in these missions is truly revolutionary. They're fun and all, but nothing groundbreaking, nothing earth-shattering, nothing worth saying now's the time to play Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Nothing to make up for the fact that, unfortunately for Invasion, its arrival among the greater context of the Overwatch 2 PvE's long-standing saga, referring to the hero missions, makes it feel perhaps more important than it could possibly ever have lived up to. This article also echoes sentiments that what's here is neat, but is it $15 neat? But is it $15?
Yeah, it's like you can't have such a small slice of content and ask people to pay $15 for it regularly and then take it out of the game arbitrarily to make people want to buy the next one. That just sounds like fucking garbage. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? You're asking people to spend $15 to play 30 minutes of a content, or an hour and a half at best of content, and then you're gonna take it out of the game later on for no reason. There's no reason to take it out of the game other than to create FOMO, and then make people spend $15 again? Like, what the fuck is going on over there? Like, whenever you actually explain it, this isn't a dick in a salad. This is a salad of dicks. What the fuck's wrong with these people?
$15 neat? No. As a one-off package presented as the first true arrival of Overwatch 2 PvE, and with a $15 minimum buy-in price, I think a lot of players will feel underwhelmed by what Invasion has to offer. And finally, here we have an article from The Verge, which had a more tepid response to the Invasion event, saying that Overwatch 2 needs a win. The Invasion event, at best, is a draw. This article criticizes Flashpoint for its simplicity and it being too similar to existing game types. It just didn't work for this particular editor. Scrolling further down, the article makes mention of the story missions being just okay. I didn't really feel like the story itself was doing anything new, especially with respects to the characters. I returned to this game over and over specifically because of the characters. I'd hoped the missions would offer me some new nugget to latch onto, and it didn't. Now, it is clarified here that the story missions aren't bad, which is what everyone's saying. Nothing about the story missions are...
I mean, but nobody's saying they're incredible either, right? It's like the Diablo 4 campaign. I think the Diablo 4 campaign was pretty good. Like, the story was pretty good. But it's not as good as Marius in the inn, is it? It's just it's not as good though, right? Yeah. Just wasn't there.
Offensive, they're neat, they're fun, they're a nice little thing to go through if you're still playing Overwatch 2. They're actually a pleasant, if ho-hum experience, exacerbated by the fact that I was playing with bots, but 3 20 to 30 minute missions that essentially repackage the typical Overwatch quick play experience in admittedly gorgeous new locations is a tough buy for someone looking to fall in love with the game again, especially since you have to pay an extra $15 for it. Yeah, these same sentiments you can see are echoed over and over and over again by numerous outlets. And then on Reddit, when it comes to community sentiments, there's somebody here asking if Invasion was worth $15 for you. There are folks saying that it was worth $5. This individual was going to buy the battle pass, so that...
Well, I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, for people that are posting on the Overwatch subreddit, yeah, I definitely bet it's worth it for them. 100%. Yeah, but like, this isn't going to bring in a new audience. Of course, people that are following the subreddit for the game at this point are still going to buy it, yeah. Spent more on gachas yourself? Oh, absolutely. But I know that it's a waste of money. That's the difference. And also, like, whenever you're buying something specific, and this is why the gachas work. And also, I would buy the Overwatch thing to play it on stream, because it's all content for me. You think I'd fuck around with that stuff if I wasn't streaming? Fuck no. So I go look at the game that I play off stream. It's the Halls of Torment. I'm playing Halls of Torment off stream. I'm sitting here fucking spending money on gacha games. I do the dailies, but that's about it.
At $10 value offered by the fact that the package, the $15 package, gives you 1,000 coins to buy the next battle pass, makes it technically a $5 expense for this individual. For $5, this person's like, you know, for $5 it was worth it. Some people did have a great time with the character interactions, the game cutscenes, and all that, but gameplay-wise, it may not appeal to players who aren't fans of hold out the spot and defend waves of attackers, which is what the entirety of the gameplay ultimately comprises. There's no fascinating and cool like level design stuff per se. It's more about the set pieces and the cutscenes, the character interactions, and the bombastic nature of the expanded levels and all these things, which, you know, might satisfy some, but for $15, it's certainly not going to satisfy.
It's not going to. I don't think it brings anybody back. I don't think anybody sees that like a mission like this. Maybe somebody would come back to play a mission for like their favorite character. Like, I'd say, like, maybe if they had a Reinhardt mission or something like that, I would be more likely to come back. But I probably wouldn't do it.
The masses. Others complain about the length of the story missions. They are fun, but they're far too short. I completed them in a couple hours, and they don't leave much incentive to go back and play them again. Replayability is, in fact, called into question. I'm happy with 1,000 credits and Soj skin, though. So overall, I can't complain. So again, those who are existing Overwatch 2 players and are still going through the battle passes and are going through the grind and are just looking for more reasons to keep them engaged, like, it'll serve them well enough. But for everyone else who have fallen out of Overwatch, or for a community that's still upset about the way they handled the hero missions and are looking for some kind of redemption, it doesn't seem like this is quite it. And I suppose only time will tell whether future story mission releases and content releases and updates and events.
Well, it's never going to be building towards a greater whole. And I think, like, what I had hoped with Overwatch 2 is that Overwatch 2 could one day become like WoW. It could one day get to be that big. To where, like, it's like open world, you're seeing other players, there's open spaces, you interact with other people. That's what I was hoping. I was hoping it could turn into something like an open world game, or at least like a lobby-based game, kind of. So dead? Yeah, no, why would you think that? The reason why I thought that is because Overwatch was derivative of Titan, and Titan was supposed to be an MMO. So my assumption was that they made Overwatch to scrap Titan, but the core DNA and what the people in the Overwatch team, previously the Titan team, really wanted to do was make an MMO. So I assumed that Overwatch 2 was their first foray towards doing something that was similar to that. That's what I thought. And no, it's actually not what I thought. It's what I hoped.
Can gradually improve over time, or if it'll just be kind of a steady decline, or just kind of a ho-hum long-term experience. We'll see. In the meantime, though, this is everything you need to know about the current state of Overwatch 2, Blizzard's response to the overwhelmingly negative review score of Overwatch 2 on Steam, it becoming the worst user-reviewed game on Steam of all time, and what people are generally saying about the release of story missions, the first substantial piece of PvE content.
Yep.
Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on all of this, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
I think it's so fucking funny that Blizzard actually addressed it directly. I do. I think it's so fucking funny. Like, if you go back and you look at this, like, it's actually them talking about it Many of the reviews on Steam mentioned a cancellation of the much larger component of PvE. I get that. The announcement was about an ambitious project that we ultimately couldn't deliver. Yeah. Like, that's crazy that they actually addressed it directly, man. It was such a mistake. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, again, like, I feel bad for... I kind of feel bad for them, but, I mean, based off of, like, what I've seen on Diablo 4, I think it's probably their fault that it doesn't work. That's just my opinion. So you think they should play dumb? Well, I mean, you don't have to play dumb, but you don't have to address it directly. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was a better idea to address it directly. I just didn't expect it to happen. You know? Like, there's a video. This is a long video. I think this is a pretty good one. Yeah, I just think it's sad. I do. I think that Overwatch, like, they successfully killed people's hope for the rest of the game. They killed the, like, they killed what the game could have been. And I think that's what's so sad about it. It really sucks, man. Because I was really excited to play the game. I was. And I was hoping, like, oh, maybe one day I'll play Overwatch 2 again. And I had it in the back of my mind, one day I'll play Overwatch 2 again. And it just never really happened. And it's just like, I don't think it's ever gonna happen now. Like, I don't really have, like, I would have in the back of my mind, oh, I hope Overwatch sponsors me again, so I'll have to play the game. And then, you know, I'll play again, and it'll be fun. But, like, now, I don't know. Like, I just, you know, if they sponsor me, I'd play it, sure. But, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's not a bad game, right? It's just that I don't have hope for it to be anything more than what it is. And I think that's one of the big differences. Like, Overwatch is doing, like, it's got 15k viewers, right? But it also has drops. So, like, if you have drops, I would take, like, it's probably 30% extra viewers just because of drops. So, I don't know, guys. It's just kind of sad. Yeah, I think it's still not that bad compared to Riot. I mean, the Riot, the $200 skin, who cares about the $200 skin? I didn't give a fuck about that. People don't want to buy it? Don't buy it. It's that simple.